We are reading Hands of Light by Barbara Brennan. We are on chapter 22, page number 228 of the book and page number 243 of the PDF.
7. Sealing the Ketheric template plate level. After the celestial level is brightened and broadened, I then move to the Ketheric, the eggshell form that seems to protect the aura. I smooth, straighten and strengthen this form by moving my hands over its outer edge. It may be too narrow around the feet, too broad in places, have lumps or restrictive bands in it. Some of these bands are related to past lives and will be discussed in chapter 24. It may be thin in places and even have breaks or holes in it. These need to be repaired and the whole form needs to regain the shape of an egg with a nice firm shell. I do these things through simple manipulation. If something is a lump, I smooth it out. If it needs light, I run energy into it until it lights up. If it needs to be strengthened, I run strengthening energy into it. The outer levels of the aura move and are manipulated very easily, so this part of the healing takes a very short time.
So if you really see, this is very much like the reball. Okay. So now we are using different techniques to do the same thing that she's talking about. When we are creating the reball, we are literally doing what she is doing over here.
To strengthen Mary's seventh layer and put her in a protective
You missed a paragraph, Shinola.
To complete the healing on the seventh level of the aura, I reach out over the patient's head and bring my hands together. My hands are about 2.5 feet above the head in the eggshell shield of the aura. I then make a large sweeping motion around the entire body of the patient. My left hand moves around to the left and my right hand moves around to the right. Energy flows in an arc from my hands that reach above the head to below the feet of the patient, enhancing the entire seventh level of the aura. As I slowly move my hands to circumscribe a circle of golden light around the chest of the patient, the entire eggshell level of the aura is strengthened.
So again, so you can see, right? The healer is sending out energy to strengthen the auric field of the patient. So now if the healer is not operating out of equanimity, is not operating out of a sense of stability, then the healer can destabilize the auric field of the patient. That's why it's very important for the healer to be in a higher state of consciousness, number one, than the patient, and also operating from a state of equanimity.
To strengthen Mary's seventh layer and put her in a protective shield, to allow the healing to continue to work in her aura, lift your hands above her body. You are still sitting in a position above her head as shown in figure 2290. The height of the seventh layer varies between 2.5 to 3 feet above the body. If you can't see it, sensitively feel with your hands in the space above Mary. You will feel a very subtle pressure as you move into the seventh layer. Hold your hands, thumb together, palms down at the outer edge of Mary's auric field. You will need your rasping breath to hold your energy level and your consciousness at the seventh layer. Now run golden light out of your hands, creating an arc from the head to the feet in Mary's seventh layer. Hold the arc steady and slowly widen it by moving your hands apart to encircle the body. Your right hand moves to the right and your left arcs to the left. Complete the circle all around so that you have traced a whole eggshell around Mary. When this is completed, I break the connection between my field and that of the patient with a soft, brisk shake of the hands and move to the right side of the patient. I now reconnect with the seventh layer from the outside. When I was doing the healing before this, I was connected into the energy system. Now I have broken away and am no longer part of that flow. Gently placing my hands on the outside of the eggshell 7th layer, I silently honor my patient and turn her healing back over to her. I honor who she is, her power to create health and balance in her life, and my small part in reminding her of who she is. I then break contact with the field again, sit down and come back to normal waking state of consciousness. By the time I enter into the 7th layer healing, I am also in a very high altered state of consciousness. I pour myself back into my body, much like putting a hand into a glove. I concentrate on being inside every part of my body. I honor my incarnation, who I am, and what I have come here for. I allow any healing energy that I may need to come through my body at this time.
So again, she is going into an altered state of consciousness to do the healing, right? Now, most healing practices don't go into an altered state, and that is where the main problem lies.
This last procedure helps the healer let go of her patient so that she will not carry her with her all week. It is also good to honor the self in this way so that the work of healing can be integrated into the personal life of the healer. This does not always happen automatically because during so much of the time spent healing, the healer is an altered state of consciousness. Sometimes it may feel as if someone else is that nice person doing all that good work. I have found that most of the healers I know have had a hard life and need to honor themselves for it, rather than judge themselves for their experiences. I believe it is all part of the training to learn love and sympathy.
So most healers, who are good, have lots of experiences in life because then they can relate to what is happening. They know the frequency of the energy. They know the frequency of the energy that they are encountering in the patient's field, right? And that's why they can allow that healing to start taking place. And it is very important for the healer to honor himself or herself. One thing I have seen that today we are the biggest critics of ourselves. And that is something that we need to stop doing immediately. Criticizing ourselves is something we need to drop. We need to actually accept ourselves and honor ourselves for what and who we are.
Now repeat the above with the patient Mary.
So now you can see in the diagram that she's creating that. It's like a reball basically being created around the patient Mary. And of course, you are connected to the field when you're creating it, right? In this case. Of course, when we create the reball, we are doing it from an altered state of consciousness in any case. And then just sending the reball to the client. And we're not working on the client at this depth that she's talking about. We're sending it and may the best manifest. But of course, we can work at this level also.
Move to her right side. Lightly make contact with her 7th layer from the outside. Honor her and return her healing back over to her. Sit down away from Mary, somewhere in the healing room. Pour yourself back into your body. Honor yourself and your purpose. The patient usually needs to rest a while after a healing and will probably be groggy for some time. This is a good time for you to make a brief record of the healing for future reference. If etheric template work has been done, I give strict orders not to do any physical exercise and to rest and eat very well for at least 3 days. After a brief rest, ask Mary to sit on the edge of the table a few minutes before she gets up, or she may be dizzy. She will be curious as to what you did. At this point, it is important not to go back to the linear mind too much, since that would pull her out of the altered state of consciousness. Explain in brief terms what you did, just enough to satisfy her, but not enough to disturb her relaxed state. During the healing, you probably became aware of any further work Mary may need. If so, discuss this with her and make recommendations about her coming back the next week if that is needed. You have just completed a full healing. You feel wonderful. Give both Mary and yourself a full glass of spring water to drink. Figure 2020 shows your patient Mary's aura after healing. Compare it to her aura before healing in figure 22.4. That is the outline of a basic full spectrum healing. During the first part of the healing in the chelation and cleaning before the template work, I may channel verbal information from the patient's guides who have come to the healing. The patient may ask questions that the guides answer. However, as soon as the template work starts, I am unable to do both things at once. The energetic template work with high concentration simply seems to take up most of my brain capacity. The patient also benefits from going into a deep, relaxed state at this time, and talking pulls them out. I continually receive new training from the guides. As soon as I learn one level, they move me up to the next. Sometimes a new set of spiritual healers come in to work through me.
So again, we are constantly growing, we are constantly learning. Shivangla, you can go to the colored pictures. They're pretty high up, I think in page 100 or something. When you type 100. So this is the patient before the healing. Her the chakra is torn with a spring, with one of the this thing springing out. All sorts of blotches in the entire aura. Streams are coming out. Next picture, Shivanga. So now the healer is healing. So you can see the deposits are still there. The healer is making a connection with the auric field. Piche jao, Shivanga. Why? Right, so the connection is being made, the auric field, the golden shell is being created. Now you go to the next one. And now the healing is complete. So the golden shell is complete, all the layers are complete, the chakras are all clear. So of course, this is an artist's renderation, but that's it.
Eight, healing on the cosmic levels of the aura, 8th and 9th layers of auric field. Recently, I have begun to see 2 levels of auric field above the golden template. They appear to be crystalline in nature and of very fine, high vibrations. Everything from the 7th down is, in a sense, a vehicle to guide and support us through this lifetime. This includes the past life bands in the Ketheric because they represent karmic lessons that we have incarnated to learn in this lifetime. The 8th and 9th layers on the cosmic level are, however, beyond that. They relate to who we are beyond this lifetime. We are souls reincarnating life after life, slowly progressing in our evolutionary path towards God. In the lower 7 layers of our energy field are stored all the experiences we have had in this lifetime, and also all the blueprints for possible experiences we programmed when planning this lifetime.
So this is an important thing, right? So it has a blueprint. The auric field has a blueprint for everything that we have planned in this lifeline. And also all our experiences in this lifetime are also recorded in the auric field. That is how biofield tuning actually works.
We also constantly create new experiences because we have free will. We do not always choose to have all these experiences. Other people have free will also, so that the possibility of experience is a complex affair. In other words, the possible experiences far outnumber those that we actually have. All these possible experiences or probable realities are stacked in the energy field. They are all designed to teach our soul certain lessons we have chosen to learn.
So again, there are many probabilities, right? So it's like epigenetics. The genes or the DNA has a lot of genes, but which one will get activated depends on epigenetics, right? So again, whenever we are coming and we are looking for an experience, our experience is dependent on many other people also wanting that same experience. Like today, if all of us are sitting here and doing this reading, all of us have decided to make a choice to be here, right? Now, we could also have made a choice not to be here. So then this book reading would have gone on, but we would not have been here, right? So in the same way, we always have a free choice and we have many opportunities. Now, if I'm going on a timeline, at every point, I'll have a choice. So I can go this way or I can go this way. Now, if I make that choice, I'm on that timeline. If I make this choice, I'm on this timeline. But both of them continue to exist. Where we focus our attention, that is what will manifest in our life. So our free will is the choices that we make and where do we focus our attention.
Sometimes these possible experiences are no longer relevant to the growth of the soul and need to be removed from the aura. This is done from the 8th level of the aura. It is as if the healer projects herself beyond the dimensions of this lifetime, then reaches down into the 7 lower layers and simply removes the possible experiences with what I call the 8th level shield.
So again, stuff which is not required, which is not to be dealt with anymore, we attempt to remove
it. The 8th level shield. The 8th level shield is used to remove trauma from this lifetime that is either severely blocking a person's development or is simply no longer needed. That is, it is no longer serves the purpose of teaching whatever soul lesson the individual had intended to be learned. It is the higher consciousness of the patient that decides when an 8th level shield is appropriate, not the personality level. Most of the time, the patient will not be aware of it at all, but sometimes those who have heard of the powerful effect of the 8th level shield will ask for one. This usually does not work. The shield will be given to the healer by her guides only when it is appropriate. To lift a long-term trauma out of someone's field can be very shocking.
So you see what also happens with many patients is that they want to direct the way that the healing is taking place, which in my view is absolutely inappropriate because we need to go with the flow. We need to allow the guides to do what they need to do. We need the healer to do what needs to be done rather than directing the healing ourselves. Okay. So sometimes when that happens, you can be a little, I mean, a little strict or a little, what's the word? The point is you need to be assertive with the patient that they need to go with the flow. They cannot direct exactly what the healing is all about. They can mention it, but then it's the healer's prerogative as to what needs to be healed and what doesn't need to be healed.
Sometimes a shield is needed to protect the individual from the greater freedom experienced when a long-term trauma is lifted from the body. Basically, the process consists of the healer putting the shield into a patient's aura, drawing or actually coaxing an old trauma to leave, filling the hole left by the trauma with the rose light of unconditional love and sealing it off. The patient then has time to heal and get used to having lifted the burden he has carried around with him for years. Not as easy as you might think. Freedom is frightening. Eventually, the shield dissolves as the person develops positive experience to remain in its place.
So, when we are used to something and suddenly that moves away from us, it can become a very traumatic experience, even though that thing is not serving us. It's like, many people you'll find they are bending on one side and walking around, that they're actually carrying a load in their aura on the other side. Now, suddenly, if you remove that aura and they become straight, their body itself will not be able to handle it. So it has to be done in a gentle way.
The sequence of setting a shield is quite complicated and usually occurs after the general cleaning and some template work is done. The decision to do so is never made by the healer. It is suggested by the guides. The shield appears to be a flat blue piece of light of very impermeable and durable quality. The shield fits along the lower edge of the chakra, just above the trauma, and is set into the root of the chakra. The left hand makes an opening for setting the shield. To do this, its energy field penetrates deep into the body to the root of the chakra, while the right hand slowly moves it into place. This movement is overseen by the guide. The shield protrudes out of the lower edge of the chakra and extends down over the traumatized area, slightly angularly out from the body. Its lower end is open to provide an exit for the trauma. The left hand anchors the shield and cannot be moved throughout the entire shielding and trauma exit process, since it separates the upper anatomical part of the auric field from what is being worked on and serves as an entrance for the guides to hold that part of the field separate from the area where the trauma is located. At the same time, the personal guides of the patient usually take him out of his body to protect and teach. Once the shield has been set, the healer reaches under it with her right hand and begins to communicate with the energy consciousness of the trauma to coax it to leave by reminding it of its God connection.
So every trauma also has intelligence, right? Every energy field has intelligence. So you can actually communicate with any kind of an energy field.
This method of healing from such a high level is very different than the one removes blocks from the field from the lower levels. By connecting directly to the energy consciousness of the trauma that is ready to leave, the healer provides a way through shielding for the trauma to leave. The trauma leaves of its own accord, and any amount of forcing simply disrupts the process and forces the healer to start over.
So again, healing is a very gentle process. You cannot force anything. You have to allow things to happen. You have to create the environment in which the healing can take place. I think that's the most important thing a healer can do for a patient.
This method allows the entire trauma to leave. In healing from lower auric layers, many times the blocks in the field are energetic signatures of trauma rather than the entire energy of the trauma itself. In a sense, in the higher level of healing, the trauma is treated as if it has its own being, since it is an integral piece of energy consciousness. When the trauma leaves, all the effects of that trauma leave with it, and the patient is finished dealing with it. The shield allows for smooth integration of the change into the patient's life and prevents any disturbance in the patient's life, which would occur if the patient were not shielded. As the trauma leaves, the guides lovingly take it and fill it with light. Once the entire trauma has left, the area is cauterized with gold or white light and the cavity is filled with the rose light of unconditional love. The new rose field is then reconnected to the field around it, all of which is still located under the shield. The open exit area at the base of the shield is then covered with a gold seal, which is left in place. The healer then disconnects the left hand from the shield, which is left in. She slowly sinks her right hand energy into where her left hand energy is seated. This releases the left hand, which is then used to integrate the new restructured and shielded area to the rest of the patient's auric field. The healer slowly moves the left hand through the upper part of the auric body, reconnecting the fields.
So this is important, right? The reconnection and the integration is a very important part of the healing process.
After setting the shield, the healer then strengthens the main vertical power current of the aura by running pulsating golden light through it. The patient slowly re-enters the body. This may be all that is done in a healing. The healer may go down to 6th level healing to enhance the patient's serenity, or may simply close the healing with the 7th. The thing that has been the greatest challenge for me in this type of work is to learn simply to sit and coax the trauma to leave. This is very different from scooping or pulling or knocking it loose with high vibrations. It is difficult to rise above the 7th leg and to stay there in a complete state of peace and alignment with God's will. One must control the breathing with slow, long in-out breaths and keep the mind focused on surrender to God's will. The divine spark exists within every cell of a person's being, and that divine spark inexorably follows divine will. The healer must sit within that divine spark. In other words, I have to sit with the trauma, make contact with that energy consciousness while I am in a state of alignment with the will of God, and simply remind each cell of that trauma and every cell of the body that it carries, with it a spark of God. I remind it that it is God, light and wisdom, and therefore inexorably flows with and is one with the universal will. This is not an easy thing to do. In the beginning, I would tend to start pulling. If I did that, it would mean that my will got in the way, which meant I had dropped to a lower level. That would knock the guides right out of my body, and my whole body would shudder. Either they left my body as a signal, or they could not tolerate my lower level will vibration. We would then have to start all over.
So again, basically, you have to let your ego out of the picture, right? Operating from the right side of the grid, not from the left side. You have to allow what happens to happen, allowing the guides to do what needs to be done. So you have to look for guidance. You have to look for downloads as to what is the best way. What do you need to do? Look for instructions and then just follow the instructions.
An 8th level shield is needed when patients are unable to bear the freedom of a lifelong trauma being lifted in a healing session. They are likely to fill that space with another negative experience. I was astounded one day when I witnessed such a thing.
So, right. So when you're used to something and then there's a space left, you will automatically gravitate towards what works or is that vibrating at the same frequency as that has been clear. That's why it's very important for us to fixate the new habit. They say that you need to repeat the thing for 21 days, whatever the new habit you're cultivating, then it gets integrated. So putting something in place of whatever you're removing becomes extremely important.
After a healing was completed, as the patient was putting on his shoes, suddenly the whole restructured golden field fell apart before my eyes. In my astonishment, I thought, how did you do that so fast? I wanted to put him right back on the table, but realized that was not right and that something more was involved. Later, Emmanuel, a spiritual teacher channeled through my friend Pat, Rodgas, the Vitalis, said that the patient now knew that he really couldn't accept what he said he wanted, that he was not ready to face certain aspects of his life related to the healing. That would mean confronting himself with issues that were very painful to him, which he simply did not want to do.
So again, it's a matter of the patient guiding the process and the guides guiding the process. The guides actually understand and know what is it that the patient can handle and how much the patient can handle. So if you overheal, it can be very, very detrimental to the patient in any case. So we have to do it in increments.
It was shortly after this experience that I learned to put the shield in. I also realized that I could not offer to give another healing to this person because that would confront him with his negative decision and possibly make things worse. I can only wait for him to come to the place in himself where he has decided to face those outer issues in his life. Then he may decide to come to a healing and we can put in the shield so that he can be protected from the uplifting of the burden while he heals internally. After that, the shield will dissolve and he will slowly be able to experience the increased freedom. An interesting example of a shield healing is shown in figure 2221. The patient whom I shall call Betty was a businesswoman. Betty was a therapy client. Her mother had died when she was 3 years old. At the time she began therapy with me several years earlier, she had no idea what her natural mother looked like and could not remember ever seeing a picture of her. During the course of the therapy, she was able to obtain pictures of her mother and began reconnecting and relating to her.
So when you look at it, our relationship with our parents is extremely important. And I'm finding that anyone who is not clear with his parents or her parents, it leads to a lot of issues and traumas. So of course, over here, she didn't know her parents, but you can energetically still connect with them.
This helped the woman develop more self-esteem since her natural mother became a reality for her. She had never been able to accept her stepmother. This process also helped to improve her relations with her stepmother. She carried a lot of pain in her chest about the loss of her natural mother.
So many people carry this loss, right? And especially when children are adopted, this can really become a traumatic position where the stepmother is actually looking after the child, but the child cannot relate because she is dealing with the abandonment issues that she has vis-a-vis her natural mother, right? So these things again become very important to clear. This is what I'm finding. Shivangla?
One day, after several years in therapy, She asked me why I never gave her a healing. I said it was because she was so healthy. However, in that moment, the guides reminded me of the use of the new shield I had just learned to put in. The next session was a healing. After going through the normal chelation and cleansing procedure and checking her template level, which did not need work, the guides proceeded to set the shield and remove the trauma of losing her mother while a small child. I was very moved when I saw her mother appear in spirit form, supported by her own guides. Instead of a team of guides receiving and enlightening the energy consciousness substance of the trauma, I saw her mother receive it with love. See figure 22-21. In the meantime, the guides of my patient had pulled her out of her body to protect and teach her. In the next step of the shield process, the guides filled the cavity emptied of trauma with the rose light of love. The healing then continued with the sealing of the bottom of the shield with gold light as shown in figure 22-22. Then we reconnected the shielded area to the upper and lower half of the auric field. We then enhanced the main vertical power current in the body. By the time this was completed, the trauma held by the mother had turned to white light. Healing on the 9th level of the aura B. I know very little about this procedure. As I watch the guides working from this level, it appears to me as if they simply remove a whole side of a person's energy bodies and all the fields with it and put in a new set. All this appears to my view as crystalline light. This procedure, when done, has the effect of healing the patient very rapidly. My guess is that it has to do with simply reincarnating in the same body without having to go through the birth-childhood experiences to set the life tasks. I have witnessed this a few times.
So this can also be like a walk-in, right? Where Ruth Montgomery talks about this, where another energy suddenly takes over the body. So maybe it's happening at the 9th level, where the energy field is constantly or totally being transformed.
Guide teams. Sometimes it appears to me that different guide teams work on different levels, and at other times it seems to be the whole same guides at different levels. The guide teams who work on different levels seem to have different characteristics. Those who work on the astral level are concerned primarily with matters of the heart and loving. They are very comforting, loving and caring, and speak poetically, teaching us to learn to love ourselves with all our faults, etc. The guides who do the Ketheric and Etheric template work look to me to be very serious and quite active and want to get to work. They are concerned with a perfect template and simply healing efficiently. They do not appear to have a lot of feelings, but at the same time are very supportive and accepting. They are more directive. The 8th level shield guides give a sense of great acceptance and infinite patience with love. The 9th level guides are very hard for me to perceive, but they seem a bit impersonal.
So again, at all levels, different guides for different things. So even in shamanism, we make a relationship with many guides, right? And then we can figure out which guide can help us to do what, which guides frequencies work better with whatever thing that we are doing. And then we can call upon those frequencies or those guides to help us to do what the healing needs to be done.
Healing session format. As a help to the new healer, I will once again list the healing session format in a much shorter form. Following this is a healing session analysis that should help you analyze where you need to practice and where you need to do your own personal growth work. 1.
So this is very important in any healing, right? We also have to personally evolve as a healer. We need to personally grow and evolve all the time. So that realization again becomes very important.
1. Before the person enters, align yourself with the light. Open your chakras using methods taught in the section called Channeling for Healing. 2. Listen to why the person has come to you. Why was she guided specifically to you? What do you have to give to her? Open to your inner repertory.
So what does this imply, right? You can ask the question to the client, but this is an inner dialogue. You're connecting internally to figure out what needs to be done. Why has this person appeared in your life? What is the healing that you can do for the patient or the person who has come to you?
Explain what you do. Number 3. 4. Analyze the energy flow in her system. What are the main blocks? How does she utilize her energy? How does she misdirect it? What are the results of a long-term misdirecting? What is her major defense?
So again, we are basically analyzing her entire field from various aspects. What is the character? What is the nature? Where she is not working well, where she is working well. All that assessment you're going to be doing.
Measure chakras with a pendulum record.
So again, these are all measurements, right? So you're working out each chakra. How is it working? What is the result of it? We had posted the entire list in the WhatsApp group, but we need to refer to these charts again and again until again it becomes, you know it by heart, literally.
Attune and align yourself with the light, giving an affirmation. Align and balance your energy system with the person's. Become aware of your guides. If you have not yet done that, periodically throughout the session, you need to realign and balance your system with the light, your guides, and the person's system.
So again, being centered, being in equanimity yourself as the healer is extremely important. If you're getting overburdened and you're not being able to handle something, it's always good to take a time out.
7. Interpret the chakras readings while running energy through the solar reflex points of the feet. Find the balance of reason, will, and emotion, the main closed centers, the main open centers, through which the person can work to deal with problems and to open the closed chakras. Find the main issues. Read psychically any information you can pick up. What is the initiating cause of illness? What are the high self qualities you need to appeal to in order to help the person heal herself?
So this becomes important, right? Figuring out what initiated the illness. Because unless you revamp it over there, the disease over here or the illness over here will not get totally cured because the residue is still there at the inception.
8. Chelates the lower auric body's chakras while scanning the body systems. If you are a beginner, you should skip to step 16. After more practice, and add steps 9 if needed, 10 and 11. After you perceive the 5th, 6th, and 7th layers of the field, you can do steps 12, 13, 14, and 15. 9. Do a spine cleaning. 10. Work directly on the places you're drawn to. Choose from various methods you know. As you do so, observe this person's emotional state. Does she take an energy or block emotionally? Be with her. Go through the blocks with her. Allow your guides to help you with specific illness areas. Listen.
So in the healer has to listen, and listen doesn't mean only with the ears. It's a matter of perceiving what is happening with the client, right? You can get downloads. The guides will give you messages that, okay, this has happened. This event took place, or this person had created a problem. So you may need to forgive a person. You may need to accept what happened in that trauma, whatever happened. And that's when the healing actually starts to take place.
"11. Clean specific blocks in the lower energy bodies. If you know 12, if you know how, this is the point at which etheric or kentric template work occurs. 13. Go to the celestial level. 6. Send white light directly into the central brain area. Raise your vibrations by vibrating your pituitary. When the person's vibrations come up to yours, go up to the next level and repeat. Do this until the central brain area lights."
So you're healing and energizing the brain.
14. At this point, if you have not already done so, you may see the person's guides, angels, visions, or get direct messages for the person. Gently break the connection and close the opening. 15. From the position at the head of the table, try to get a nice up and down vibrational current from the third ventricle through the spine using the double hand technique. At this point, you may want to comb out the celestial and astral body, especially if the person is depressed or suppressed. 17. Enhance and strengthen the eggshell or orb. Move to the patient's right side. Recontact the seventh leg. Honor your patient and her self-healing power. 19. Gently break the connection, closing all the openings and move away from the person. Give yourself a few minutes to return fully into your body and the earth plane. Allow the healing energy to flow through you. Honor yourself, affirm who you are and your work. 20. If the person has left her body and needs help returning, gently pull her back by grasping the feet and sucking the energy towards you. 21. After each healing, remind the patient to take a large glass of fresh water, and you do the same.
Again, hydration before and after every kind of healing is very, very important. Healing session analysis.
Healing session analysis. 1. What happened chronologically? How did each step of the healing go? Which steps were easy? Which did you have trouble with? 2. Answer item 4 of the healing session format. Answer item 7 of the healing session format. 4. What were the internal processes of the healer and the client? Did you lose your centering and perhaps waste energy where it wasn't needed? How? Relate this to the character structures of the healer and the client. 5. What was accomplished in the healing? Did you reach the person's inner light? What was the nature of her high self qualities? How did you support her and bring her out? 6. On the basis of the above, what personal work do you need to do? 7. Draw a before and an after picture of energy flow. 8. What was the initiating cause of the illness? How did you deal with it? 9. On the basis of the above, what healing work would you concentrate on next time? What is your prognosis? What is your guidance regarding this prognosis.
Of course, all this works and matters when we start doing the healing. I think we can stop here today. We finish this chapter.